Yes, I know it's been a little over a month from the release of Mordhau, but at least from the time that I started making this video, it was exactly a month, so shh, I'm right, you're not, shh. On the 29th of April 2019, the medieval gaming community changed somewhat. The same stale games being played over and over again, Mount and Blade, Kingdom Come, long lost dreams of Bannerlord, some great things, but there hadn't been anything different, nothing new in medieval gaming and the community to come for quite some time. But then came Mordhau, finally a breath of fresh air on this tired, small community. But what has it done in the last month? What has happened through this time that it has been released? What has it achieved and how has it lasted? And most importantly, what's next after Mordhau's 1 month later? Unfortunately, we don't actually have the exact number of people that really own the game on Steam, but it's estimated to say that on Steam, around 1 to 2 million people own Mordhau. Of course, it came from this inspiration of veteran games, a world in 2012 where medieval games were all the lark, Mount and Blade, War of the Roses, Age of Empires, well, sort of Age of Empires, and most importantly, Chivalry. Upon its release, Mordhau received some great success though. Stats such as the 11th most played game on Steam at the time, 60,000 concurrent players, and a development team so in awe about the worldwide positive feedback of their game that updates and fixes for all the issues came fast and thick, or thick and fast. But in the last month, we've had some meteoric rises in this game, but at the same time, also a little bit of loss. Players have come down now to around 20 to 30,000 players each peak concurrently playing at the same time, which, yes, whilst it's half of what it was at its all-time height, it's still nothing to be scoffed at. I feel like many of the impulse purchase kids or curious strategy game players have sort of thinned out now. They've left and now Mordhau has its core audience that I do feel like this number will be staying around this average for quite some time. It's made massively up of Chivalry and Mount and Blade players, but also quite an obvious new showing to players which perhaps never thought that they would be into medieval games before or have found a new love in this title because of the success of it and how it has really changed itself from games that have come out in the past 5 years. Balance on some occasions has been an issue, yes, that is granted throughout Mordhau. Whilst many things like server issues have almost been completely wiped out, balance is something that still many people complain about that I'm seeing in chat, forums, and even my comments on YouTube. Some of it justified and some of it just not. But on the whole, nearly all the weapons I would say work pretty well in their own way. There's none that are really more powerful than another in every single way, but definitely have more precise moves and counters needing to be able to learn in order to be superior over a player with a certain type of weapon. Such as fast and quick stabs against Zweihander players, or half-swording and chambering against rapier and spear players, and so on. But when it comes to maps, I have to admit there have been issues in the last month. And much of what's gone on in the last month has actually come down in the end to maps and content in some way or form. Let's get this out of the way. They are gorgeous. There's so much detail and effort that's been put into these maps, how they've been crafted, how they've been made, the textures, the graphics. But when the red team in public matches seems to have a clear advantage in pretty much every map, there is an issue, although that's except on Mountain Peak from my experience. Saying this though, this doesn't mean red always wins. With the right tactics and gameplay, often the disadvantaged team can still do something about it. But the issue for me at least, isn't that one team has the advantage on a map. A lot of the time it's how very few matches, when it comes to public play at least, have this back and forth, a push and pull in the map. Almost from the get-go, it's very clear which is the better team. If one team captures the first few points and starts pushing, rarely have I seen the opposing side push back in an effective enough way in order to turn the tide of battle. Once one side has about 1 to 200 more tickets than the other, the battle is basically over at that point. It's almost always going to go in the way of that team for the rest of the duration. Of course, there have been exceptions to this, and I've played a lot of games where there have been exceptions where one team is drastically losing and all of a sudden they pull it back, but it's so rare, and I do feel like most of the time it does work like this. Now, Mountain Peak is the only map that I have seen that really works with this next particular example that I have in terms of map balancing. It takes what I've just said and ramps it to the max. One team will almost always swamp the other, but with Mountain Peak specifically, a lot of the time the matches can be over sooner than most other maps. One team will almost always swamp the other. Yes, as I did say, most of the time it is the blue team swamping the red, but on occasion it's still the other way round. But still, this just helps the point. There isn't always a push and pull, stalemates, and then finally breaking through the enemy line. You know, the things that make games really exciting and on edge all the time. Now, you may disagree with me with this, but for all the Mordhau players out there, which I assume is most of you who are watching, how many times in a frontline mode are you on edge with who's going to get that final push? Who's going to get the final few kills to clinch the round on their own? When it's neck and neck to the finish and it could be anyone's game. I'm fairly confident in saying that hardly ever happens. From the get-go, one team starts to win, and it's just a snowball from there. There's very little push and pull that I found from the maps. Maybe this is down to the maps, or maybe this is just down to me being unlucky with what games I've been going in. And yes, of course, once or twice in public games, I have felt that it's got to that sort of final bit of string where it could be anyone's game and someone does a really good play in order to take it for their team. But on the whole, it's a set fight until the end, with one side doing that little first bit of work at the start of the game, and then it carries on until the round ends. Could this be why nearly 50% of the players have dropped off though? There will always be some loss after the release because there's hype and then it starts to die down and the OG players stick onto it. But I do think this map balance has contributed quite a lot to why some people have dropped off. Furthermore, let's talk a little bit about the content though. With the few maps that are out at the moment, cycling around them for a whole month can get a little stale. And a lot of people I've talked to say the same thing. The game is great, they love it, it's such a fun experience, but there needs to be more maps. We've played all the maps hundreds of times at this point. We've already had screenshots though and news about what's coming next, so I'm not too worried about that because we have had confirmation of 2 new maps coming out. But this goes on to more of different modes. We have the modes that are in at the moment, but everyone's talking about one thing, and this is Siege mode. And this is something I cannot wait for. But is it confirmed, I hear you ask? Well, from the devs' mouths, I've done a lot of research and I actually can't find them specifically saying that it will definitely be in. There's been hints and things like that, but honestly, if they turn around and say that Siege mode isn't in it, they're going to have a lot of explaining to do, since the trailer when it was released obviously shows a lot of Siege modes with catapults defending walls and things like that. So I think it is pretty much confirmed at this point that there will be a Siege mode coming in. When it's coming in, we don't know. These new maps, one of the new maps looks more to be a cityscape, but it doesn't look to be a full Siege, but I guess only time will tell with that one. Furthermore though, in the last month, as well as the confirmation of 2 new maps, an official 1v1 duel mode is coming, and yes, this is definitely on its way, so no more heading into supposedly duel servers and having a kid rapier come up behind you and tickle your pickle, if you know what I mean, because he doesn't really know how duels work. But finally we have the confirmation of modding tools coming into Mordhau, and if this isn't something to sing the praises of, I don't know what is. Something great to be able to keep this game running, to keep people interested. There's only so many maps and modes that the developers can bring out until it still becomes dry, even if they keep churning them out. So I think modding is something that is paramount for the success and longevity of the game for years down the line. And I know a lot of people do agree with me on this one, that modding is something that can keep a game going for years longer than just perhaps the developers could do on their own. Yet all of this is in the future. Modding tools have been said to be a longer term project, and maps will probably be slowly filtering out over the next year or so. But the first month of Mordhau's release has been an overall success, with a great show of how a small company can take only the historical gaming community but the worldwide gaming community by storm and bring something fresh and much needed to the table. Make sure you stick around this channel for all your Mordhau guides, tutorials, secrets, and new updates on the game, and I'll be bringing it to you as soon as it comes out. But I really hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for watching this video. I'm really looking forward to what Mordhau has in the future. A month in, and we already have some really great signs that this game is going to be a laster. But thank you so much for watching. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and make sure you go and check out my other Mordhau content if you like that sort of stuff and you're new to the channel. But until then, guys, I will see you in the next one.